Hi guys, welcome. My name is Amanda for those of you that are new to the channel. For those of you who've been here before, welcome back again, and friends and family, good day. So once again, we will be sharing some family recipes and going back to basics and doing some really budget basic recipes, meal prepping, because it's towards the end of the week and it's, well, predicted to be really terrible weather once again for us. So you know what, let's just get the fridge packed just in case. Need to anyway. I'll be away for a few days. There goes the voice. Always tell when the voice goes. There's change of weather coming. Rightio. So I finished off yesterday's baking with the family banana nut muffin cheesecakes. All right, so they're done. They just need to be packed away. But I don't have any mains. And so pasta, really cheap, really quick and easy meals to make and meal prep. And I also have some rump cap out as well. I also have to cook for a baby. All right, so I've got to do some different styles of food preparation today as well. So I aim for 3 main meals as well. And as far as those muffins go, it's not really difficult. It's a banana nut muffin at the bottom and it's a maple vanilla cheesecake on the top for the frosting. They're yum, but, you know, it's a bit quirky. Family like it. Rightio, on to mains. So with the meal prep, I'll start off with a pasta dish and I'll build it up as we go, just using ingredients from the fridge and the freezer in the pantry. So I'll start off by a simple $1 for a cost of pasta, saves me making it as well, and it's quick and simple. Water's boiling, so in goes 500 grams of pasta. I'm using penne today. So this dish will also be for the youngest member of the family who is just 10 months old, 11 months old. So I want to keep most of the salt down, so I won't be adding any additional salt. I've got a maple bacon cured fresh from the smoker a few weeks ago, so that will replace my salt component as well as the cheese. So I'll be mindful of that and probably do this in a couple of batches. So this is just going to be really simple. Chop up the bacon, done. So weigh all that up because this is actually going to be for 2 meals. We are really going to reduce the budget. So 150 grams, I'm going to use half for this meal and half for the rice and beef dish, which will be coming next. Okay, ham. I went out to the outlet a couple of weeks ago and picked up some ham pieces. It was a 2 kilo piece of ham, which I chopped up into steaks and froze them. All right, what's that way? So that's what I'm going to be using as well in both the pasta and in the fried rice component. Another 400 grams of ham. Just needs to be chopped up and cubed really fine. I've just nuked it in the microwave just for a minute, just so that I can slice it up. So that's our ham all diced up. This again will be split into 2, half for the fried rice and half for the pasta dish. So I've got 2 kilos of just a packet of frozen vegetables from the outlet. So this 2 kilos was $2, because it's mostly carrots and there's some not so pleasant looking vegetables amongst it, but that's okay. We'll sort through it all. Pre-cook all of it. So it's going into the water with the pasta as well for the same amount of time. So the pasta's going to cook for 8 minutes. So is this. Got out my rice cooker, simple. And I'm going to cook off the bacon in the bottom of the rice cooker while I'm doing other jobs. All right, while I've got the veggies and the pasta, bacon can do its thing in there. We will also need to get some other ingredients for the rice at the same time. I'm trying to do 2 things at once. So that is 140 grams of, it looks like an all-American cheese. It's definitely a cheddar. And looking at the colour, I would say it's American cheddar. Most likely it would have come from Costco. Normally buy that slice. Oh, well, no, I did buy Edam and cheddar whole last time as well. This has been frozen as well, like most things here. So I'll just chop that up, and then I'm going to have to go and add a little bit more creaminess. There's a bit of salt in the cheddars already, so I'll just go and get some mozzarella. That brings me up to my 200 grams. So we have our ham, we have our cheese, we have the bacon cooking, we have the pasta cooking, and the mixed vegetables cooking as well. We need some seasonings. Okay, good timing. Bacon has just gone click click in the rice cooker, so it can be removed. Half of it anyway. Half of it I need for the rice. I might as well just take it all out because I'll cook some other ingredients in this cooker while I'm using it. Again, not very much bacon, and that's going to be 2 separate meals. Also need to get the beef for the fried rice dish because, I mean, you can't just have fried rice. I've got some beef rump. This piece is 750 grams, and then in the bowl I've got another 250 grams. I've got a kilo in total, but I'm taking off the cap of this roast, which I was going to cook in the smoker, but I have defrosted the wrong piece of meat, so it's not going to go to waste, and I'm not putting it back in, and I'm not going to be using the smoker for the next few days, so it's got to be used. So instead I will strip it up and do a similar to butter chicken type flavour for it. Most of the same ingredients at least, so a kind of a curry. So all I need to do is chop up the meat into really fine strips. These are little pieces of medallions. I'll do the same with this. I will take this piece of fillet and I'll cut its medallion in the centre because this is a piece of rump cap. Okay, so that's my medallion, and I'll do the same thing. It'd be so much easier to do this when it was frozen like the other piece, but we'll have to make do with what we have. So I'm just going to chop all this beef up really fine. All right, because it's beef and it's rump and it was budget rump, this was $10 a kilo, I'm going to velvet it just to make it easier for especially the baby to eat. Now, I've measured out a kilo. 1 teaspoon of baking soda is all that I need, and then I'll add a cup of water to that as well, or up to a cup of water to the beef. I'll start with just half a cup first and see how it responds. The last roast I did from a very similar piece of meat took a full cup, but it's a half a cup. Basically, all you want to do is add your bicarb, add your water in smaller increments, usually I would say third a cup, quarter cup at a time, before you start doing the massage, and see how much fluid your meat absorbs. But because I've used this beef for the past few months, I guess, both of the roasts or the rumps were quite lean, which means they potentially would be quite dry. So I've had to velvet a lot of it or mince it, which is fine. It's a cheap cut of meat. You know, it still gets used in all of those simple throw together meals. So that has taken that full cup. That's a full cup of water. So I'm going to let that sit covered in the refrigerator while I prepare the marinade for it and the sauce for it as well, and then move on to continue with the rice. I bought the rice at Costco in a 10 kilo bag, and I've already started back sealing into 2 kilo portions. So I take the 10 kilos, put it all into the large back bags, take all the air out obviously because I'm back sealing it, and then put it back into the bag. Then it goes into the crate down in the back room, which is a food storage crate. And that way I'm only using a couple of kilos at a time. All right, that's taken all of that. So I'll go get a bag of the rice and we'll get the rice cooking and we can start on the cheese sauce. Yep, we're multitasking. Let's get the rice going. So, like I said, that's how I back seal my rice in smaller portions. So with the rice cooker, really simple. That's why we have rice cookers. We're going to have pretty much 1-to-1 ratio of rice to water with an extra quarter of a cup of water at the end. So I've got 3 cups of rice, so I'll use 3.5 cups of water. No, I might do 3.5. I don't want it sticking. All right, turn that on and let that do its thing. That's the rice cooking. It's going to need some seasonings for that as well, so we're just going to do some seasonings and some marinades. Okay, so I need some garam masala, some turmeric. So the garam masala, 2 teaspoons of that. Also need to have half a teaspoon of a chili powder. Again, doing this for the family, so I don't want to add too much heat. So I'm just going to use our ground bell peppers. You can use just plain paprika or any flavour chili if you want to use the cayenne pepper. Cumin, I need half a teaspoon. I need half a teaspoon of ground ginger, which I'm feeding a ginger beer bug as well. So plenty of ginger. Half a teaspoon of that. This is going to be the marinade for the beef. In a few minutes, I'll take the beef out and make sure that I've washed off all of the baking soda. Ground ginger, garlic, 2 teaspoons. Where's the garlic? Onion. Just going to add 1 teaspoon of, and then I just need turmeric. And I am going to add some of the hickory blend as well. That adds smoky flavour, that doesn't make it hot. All right, so that is the spice blend for the beef. I will just go and rinse. I'll bring it out and we'll rinse it off. So this here is the velveted beef. Its texture's completely changed. It's been in the fridge for about 10 minutes. So its texture's changed and all of the protein part of the meat has broken down. That's what the bicarb does. It changes, sorry, the baking soda. It changes the texture of the meat. Also makes it nice and bright because it's opening up all of the structures of the meat. So it looks really lovely and fresh. It makes it really, really soft to eat. But I do need to just rinse off all of that baking soda under running water just for a couple of minutes, and then I can put the marinade over the top, which in my case is a spice blend. So that's our beef all washed. Spice blend, just going to mix that together and then add it to our beef. This is just like a rub or a seasoning. And then this will go back into the refrigerator while I'm preparing the rice, as well as we can get onto the pasta now. You know, doing 3 things at once. You don't have to marinate velveted meat if you don't want to. You can cook it quickly as soon as you've rinsed it off, if you don't want to do a marinade and just have a really nice sauce instead. I've done that before, so that's my velveted beef. Done. Into the refrigerator. Pasta sauce. Spices for the pasta sauce. Again, we're going to start off with a tablespoon of the sweet paprika. We're going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder, teaspoon of onion powder. Remember, my son doesn't like onion, but we are using a dip as well, don't forget. So I'm just trying to sneak in as much flavour without actually having the whole ingredient. Parsley, a couple of teaspoons, let's call that a tablespoon. White pepper, definitely. So it's ground whole white pepper. Salt should be okay because there's cheese and we've got the bacon and the ham. Alrighty, let's get on to the sauce. So I've got a couple of tablespoons of margarine butter cooking on the stove, melting, and I need flour. A couple of tablespoons of bread flour to be added to that will make a bechamel. So to the stove, that's the margarine that's melted, a couple of tablespoons. I'm going to add all of my spices because I want to get them cooked off at the same time so that they do infuse their lovely flavours in this before I go and add the flour and start thickening it off. So I'm just going to cook that off for another minute or so. Again, really simple. Trying to get all these jobs done before the storms hit. So they're starting to smell really good. So we don't want to burn them. I'm going to add my flour because it needs to cook for a minute as well. So I'm going to be adding 1 litre of milk to to this may turn into 2 litres of milk, depending on how much sauce I end up with at the end. So cooking off that flour, exactly what I wanted, just for the next minute. That way we don't end up with a raw flour taste to the bottom. You know, it's a bechamel type style sauce, but it also has spices which we just do not want burning before we start adding the rest of the ingredients. And this is a really quick, simple recipe to make. Yes, Caitlin, you can make it as well. Alrighty. Just making sure that none of it is sticking to the bottom. And then I'll swap over to the whisk and get the rest of the ingredients through. And unfortunately, my son has come out and spied the vegetables, and he's done a count, and he has counted that there are 6 different kinds of vegetables in that batch, which is way beyond what he's allowed to have in his brain. So I have to hide them pretty well, which I will. You know, he doesn't have to know about all of this as well. He likes spices. He can accept that. It's the texture. It is just a thing. Alrighty, we've got a litre of UHT milk and a whisk. So the typical bechamel you add gradually. This is room temperature milk. It's not pre-warmed or anything like that. It's just straight out of the cupboard. I'm going to just get the first bit in, get that flour blended with it, get all the lumps out. Just keep mixing through little bits until it's no longer lumpy. Now, those of you know, I don't have time for this stand in. And we're doing multiple jobs. In goes the rest of the milk. So once you get all those lumps out, the rest of the milk can go in. I'm actually going to grab another carton. I might do a double sauce batch. That way I'll just got to add pasta later. Alrighty, so that's coming up to temperature. Let's get a few ingredients in while I can still taste it. So I had a question from Ella, and she asked how I cook meat for the family when I don't eat meat. How do I know what things taste like? Well, to start with, I get my family to taste most of it as I go because my son is usually always here with me. I did used to eat meat many years ago. I don't eat meat and haven't eaten meat for a good part of 20 years. Not a big deal. So most of these recipes I've been making for a lot longer, so I do know what they taste like, and I have written all these recipes out. Or even though this isn't a recipe as such, it's just something we do. I know what the flavour profile's like. However, because this one has a lot of seasonings in it, it needs to be tasted, and always does, because one of the recipes I made recently apparently was too salty, and it was too late for me to taste it because it had ham, prosciutto, pork, and something else in it. Either way, it was just too much, which was easy to solve. I just added potato. Potato draws out the salt. All right, so for this particular one, before I go adding the ham and the bacon and everything else to it, I will taste the cheese sauce part of it because I know what the bacon and things taste like. And the reason I know that is because I've made them a million times. So I don't need to, and we made them from scratch, so I don't need to adjust salt for the bacon because I made the bacon. So sometimes you can get a really salty ham. So no, I haven't tasted this particular ham, but the rest of the family have, and they haven't had any complaints. All right, that was the spring onion dip, French onion dip. Either or, both work. This is starting to thicken, which is great. So I will test it and decide whether or not. Now I've got a lot of salty ingredients to go in, so I won't be adding salt. The one thing I'll possibly be adding is some black pepper, depending, because it's really difficult to taste without all that added salt. It's definitely creamy. The only thing it's lacking is salt. So there is so much salt here. And remembering, I said this is also for a younger person. By younger, I mean a 11-month-old. So I don't want to be putting in huge amounts of salt because of these processed meats. So this is the ham. I'm going to keep some for the rice. The bacon I've already reserved some as well, and we'll get that mixed in, and then we've just got to add the pre-cooked vegetables and get them in as well as the pasta, and we are done. So don't want this to burn, so I'm just going to turn the heat off and just keep moving it around because this now has the cheese in it. Once the cheese gets added, heat goes off, it's not needed. We need to then add half of the vegetables, so this is about 500 grams of the vegetables. In the end, I added an extra half a litre of milk just because I wanted a bigger amount of sauce. But I'm still going to add the pasta to this, right? It's just because the pasta will absorb. And I'm adding vegetables and all of that meat as well. So I figured normally if it was just a straight pasta dish, a litre is enough. But because it does have all of the vegetables and I do need to hide them really well from my son, yeah, I don't really have an option but to increase the amount of sauce. The only ingredient I had to increase was the milk. Okay, not a big deal. Add the pasta. How many servings is this going to make? 10, at least. Like I said, I am meal prepping. This is a standalone dish. So this one doesn't need anything else added to it protein-wise. It has the protein included in it with the bacon and the ham. So this is a standalone dish. The other dish, the rice with the protein, a kilo of beef, is normally divvied up into 8 meals, 125 gram serves. I try to do. When I'm doing the meat, I can stretch that to 100 grams instead and turn it into 10 meals. But it just depends on the rice because the rice also contains bacon and some ham. So, and that amount of protein is enough with 80 grams of beef. Trying to convince grown adult men looking at the protein that it's adequate when they're used to seeing great big steaks. You know, back in the day when meat didn't cost a fortune, it's a bit more difficult. That's finished. Okay, that one's ready for meal prepping. Let's go back and deal with the rice. Onto the fried rice. So in the bowl, I'm going to put in the other 500 grams of the cooked mixed vegetables, the remainder of the ham, the cooked bacon, simple, and all of the bacon drippings as well. I'll add extra flavour because there is no frying of this fried rice. It's just a quick rice dish. The rice is ready. So it's just sitting there warming now. So it's a good time to get it out before it gets stuck to the bottom. So I'm just going to take out all of the rice. It's nice and hot, so it will warm through all of those other ingredients, which will help with the flavour. Somebody else had messaged they have one of these and they get their rice stuck all the time, which is why I add that extra little bit of water. I don't do an even amount, if that makes sense. So for every cup of rice, it would be an extra quarter of a cup of water gets added. That seems to be the right ratio. While this is hot, I need to grab an egg. Just put one egg, whisked it up, popped it in with the hot rice that's just come out of the rice cooker. You can put the egg in while the rice is cooking in the rice cooker. Either way, it doesn't matter. This just adds a velvetness to the dish, makes it, just adds another level flavour. And then we'll add some seasonings to this as well. The heat from the rice will cook that egg, all right, so don't worry. And then again, the meal gets reheated again before it gets eaten. All right, so that's our rice and vegetables combined. Start off with some sweet soy sauce, a couple of tablespoons. I can get it out of the bottle. So a couple of tablespoons of that, a good teaspoon of white pepper. That's a half a teaspoon measurement, so just a good teaspoon. Needs some parsley, not very much, just a a couple of pinches just for some added colour. Usually would be adding some fresh green onions from the garden, but no, not going out to the garden at the moment. If I go out there, I won't come back. Sesame oil, again, a good couple of tablespoons popped in there as well. And then all combined. All right, needs an onion flavour. So I'm going in with the onion powder again instead of using any sort of onion for texture reasons. If you've got fresh onion, slice some of it up. And I've got canned onions I could have used because that's already cooked and so it's not crunchy, but it's still got a texture that he doesn't like. And there's no point making this for somebody if they're not going to eat it. This can be frozen again once it's all been prepped up again. When I was at Costco, they have fried rice. I love their shrimp fried rice, don't get me wrong. Do love it. And I did used to buy it until I realised it was just ridiculously expensive for the quantity. So $22 for, it works out less than a kilo, in all honesty. I can't remember exactly how many bags, but $22 for, I think it's like 6 servings, which really is not 6 servings. They're very small servings. So I guess as a side dish maybe, but still $22 is a little bit much when you can make a whopping great big bowl like this, which is several kilos, for a lot less money. Which I am going to try to calculate the amount it's cost. So you've got $1 for vegetables, you've got $2 for the bacon and the ham, and whatever the rice is, I have to work out the rice. All right, that's it. The rice is done. On to cooking the beef. Onto the beef. Right, hot wok, searing hot wok. I'm going to add just a couple of tablespoons of rendered beef trimmings. So you can use ghee, you can use lard, you can use oil, you can do whatever you like. I'm doing beef, so I might as well put this to use as well. Like I said, trying to use a lot of the ingredients that are in the refrigerator as well. So let that melt down and I'll go and get the beef. Beef, which has been in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes, just while we finished off those other jobs. I'm just going to fry it all off quickly. It's got all that seasoning in it as well. So all in one go. You can hear it sizzling away. So as that cooks down, I'll just get the other couple of ingredients. 1 can of coconut cream, or you can use 200 mils of cooking cream, and also 1 cup of passata. We'll add to this as well, and that'll create the sauce. The passata, it's just off the shelf, so it was just a larger bottle, that we don't use a full bottle each time. Whoopsie, we don't use a big bottle, so the remainder was put into cup size 250 ml, half pint little jars instead. So perfect for this whenever I need just 1 cup of passata. That way none of it's going to waste. All right, so that has all just been rapidly cooked off and smells amazing. Those of you who have seen or smelt freshly made butter chicken, that's the spices that I've used. I've used a butter chicken blend to create this. It's just, I either use chicken or beef, but it's the same spice profile, same flavours. All right, we don't want to overcook it because it's really thin beef. So in goes the coconut cream. Well, that's a first. It's actually not a big lump. That's how hot it is here. We actually have managed to get the coconut cream not to be so solid. It's still solid enough. I can't get it out of the can straight away. It's still pretty solid. The coconut cream always contains coconut water and then the solids parts. Normally, if I was doing a recipe, I would drain off the coconut water, but because this is a sauce, now it can all stay in. And then to that, we just need to add the passata. And that there is it. I'm going to let all that come back to temperature and thicken. So I've just got some corn flour and some water, nothing else. And I'm just going to add it to the simmering liquid, which is the tomato passata and the coconut cream. I just want a thickened sauce. That's exactly what it's doing now. So that was 3 teaspoons of cornstarch and a little bit of water. That's it, done. Turn it off. it's thickened enough. And it'll just continue to simmer away in there just for a moment while I now go and get everything in order to do the meal prep. So I want some of the heat to come out of this before I meal prep it all. So I'm just going to leave that and come back to it. We'll start with the pasta. Just going to lighten it a little bit to cut through all of that richness by just adding half a lime as well. So a normal butter chicken would have lemon juice, yogurt, and mixed in with the initial marinade, but because we've velveted beef and we're not using chicken, I've taken away that acidity. So I'm just going to lighten the sauce a little bit by just adding that lime. We're done. Okay, let's begin the meal prep of the pasta. All right, it's cooled down enough that I can at least get it into the first of the trays. It's still lovely and creamy. See all that mozzarella stretch. Son has requested some of this already, so I need to get it into bowls before it disappears. So here's the containers I use when I do my meal prepping, and there are two sizes. Okay, this one is a litre, this one is 750. Don't tell anyone. The family don't notice the difference, but it means I can get more for less, if you know what I mean. I can spread the meals even further than I used to by using the slightly smaller, but you know, it's, if you put the two together, you'll notice it, which is why these are all, the bigger ones are no longer in the pantry where they can be seen, and just these smaller ones are. Just means that, you know, I can stretch the meal just a little bit further. And should they still be hungry afterwards, then they can have a fresh slice of bread or something else, okay? They don't need to have a really heavy, dense meal. If they want a piece of fruit, great, do that too, you know? So it's just a little cheap. All right, I'm going to prep up these trays. I said I will get 12 from this pasta. We will see. Aim is 12. I always like to aim for 12. And if my son doesn't get to it before I get it all packed up, I'll get my 12. If he comes out, then I'm going to lose a little bit, and I'll probably end up with maybe 10. Either way, it's still a really cheap meal. I don't go to the extent of weighing these out, okay, guys? I'm not that bad. I may portion out the meat, the beef, and I only do that just to make sure everybody gets an even amount of protein, especially when it comes to beef. Because it's, you know, it's an expensive, let's be real, beef is a luxury these days. Like, I mean, seriously, it is. It's not like you can just go out and get yourself a tomahawk and think that that's okay. I would feel incredibly guilty if the meal that I was eating was costing, you know, $15, $20. That's just, no, it's just too much. All right, I keep my meals for the whole family are around the same, including myself, at around the $2. It gives us the opportunity to buy bulk when we need to. And if we want to have a cheat night and have something, you know, special at Christmas time, or when family are here and we want to do a takeaway, then, you know, we do a takeaway. It doesn't happen very often, you know, because I just cannot stand the price of pizza. It makes me, I don't understand it. It's just insane. The cost of takeaway, or things like, you know, the big takeaway stores, your McDonald's and places like that. I'd rather go down to the local fish and chips place and pay $7.50 for fish and chips than I would go to somewhere like McDonald's and spend, you'll have to help me out here. I don't actually know. What does a meal cost at McDonald's these days? I know the coffees are around $7. Yes, found that out the other day. So everything is expensive. So, you know, trying to keep budgets down, we all do. Okay, son did come and he has taken the bowl. Off he's gone. I've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 left over. Alrighty, I don't know, let's have a look, see what they weigh approximately. I don't normally do this. Let's see. I'm thinking they're probably at around 4. It's 440, 430, 420. Okay, so around just over 400 grams. That's a meal, 420. That sounds pretty good. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of them. Rightio, so that's meal number 1, plus what he's eating at the moment. So I've gotten 10, I'll say 10. There's 9 going in the fridge, plus he's eating 1 at the moment. I'll put on the screen somewhere how much these have cost in total for each meal. I'm going to say they're well under $2. All right. rice and beef next. So beef's cooled down enough that I can meal prep them as well. What's the time now? Skies have just turned really grey. All right, so it's now 9:30. So all of this has taken me just over an hour to complete. Let's get these and we're done. Okay, we have 10 rice, which we just need to add 10 beef. No, I'm not measuring out. I'm just doing scoop at a time, ladle at a time. Okay, nothing, no weighing individual portions of this at this stage. I just needed to make sure I had 10 beds of rice that I could then add the beef to. Once I've got all of the beef reasonably evenly distributed between all of them, so everybody gets the same amount. But this is a really quick way to get all the meals done. Like I said, the sky has just changed completely colour. I need some more beef. These are large serving sizes, to be perfectly honest. We have 10 in total of the beef with the rice. All right, so that's like a butter chicken, but it's beef instead. Same profile. Quick, easy meals, done. Alrighty, lids go on and they're finished too. That's it. 2 hours work, meals are done. I have enough for my immediate family plus my additional family for 4 days, and then I have to do it all over again. But at least I have prepped in order to be prepared for the storm that is on its way. The skies are grey. Again, the humidity is insane considering it is so early in the morning already. But need to go move goats, move a pony into stable, bring the dogs in to get them up out of the inclement weather that is scheduled. We have got big storms forecast over the next few days once again, so it's important that we get prepared for that here as well. And part of my being prepared is getting those meals done, which has cost me next to nothing. I will put a price exactly here of how much each of those meals have cost. There are 10 servings of each, so I have 20 servings in total, and all of them contain meat as well as vegetables and rice or pasta. Simples. Alrighty, thanks for joining me. Bye now.